I want to give. And what I meant by that was, and I said, like, I just feel I haven't emptied myself yet. You know, I've got more to give. And I remember just pleading with God and just the tears just streaming down my face and just saying, yeah, if you just let me live, if you let me get through this, I promise you, I will empty myself and try and give from whatever you've given me. And it was incredibly scary. And the next morning, I remember they said that they might have to start a really intensive kind of chemo on me.
God, man, I mean, it's a harrowing time, like in your life. Like that's like just when I hear about, because I not it wasn't life threatening, but my version of the mental turning into physical was while I was a monk, I developed polyps in my throat. And so these get on your vocal cords, and people generally get it from like vocal exhaustion or lack of vocal rest or some sort of vocal disruption. And I think for us in the monastery, it was mantra, it was chanting, it was, you know, and I do not have a singing voice for whatever it's worth, but I think my vocal range is pretty limited, and I was probably straining it. I don't even know how it happened. And that's the physical version, but we all know from what we're talking about, there's so much more to it, whether it's a lack of expression, a lack of authentic communication of where you're at. And I remember having to get them lasered off my throat. And so I went into surgery, got them lasered off. It's pretty like, you know, you don't feel it, you're sedated. It's not, like I said, it's not life-threatening, but like for months after, you're drinking from a straw because you can't eat proper food.
Okay.
And you can't talk. So I have a whiteboard. And I remember moving in back with my parents at the time because I couldn't be in the monastery. And I would literally write to my mum like what I could eat, water, whatever it was. And I'm literally carrying a whiteboard around my neck basically and just writing stuff to my family because I can't say anything. And at that time, I'm like, I give speeches at colleges, I give talks at the temple. I'm like, speaking is my thing.
Yeah.
Like that's what I do.
Of course.
And it's all gone.
Of course.
And it's disappeared. And like, I can't even say anything. Like I'm writing words on a whiteboard. And I remember feeling very similarly to what you're saying about seeing that pigeon, praying to God. Like I can relate to it. And again, like mine was not life threatening. It wasn't, you know, there's a difference between not speaking and not walking.
No, but it's profound because it's your gift turns to your curse.
100%.
And it's like the thing that you are blessed with, which is this ability to communicate and this desire, this purpose you have, that is the thing that's taken from you.
Correct.
And so how has that affected the way that did that just make you even more motivated to speak and to choose your words and think about your words?
Yeah, I had to go to a vocal coach to train and all of that kind of stuff. And they said that you would get your natural voice would come back. It came back softer. I'd lost the raspiness and the depth of my voice, so I sounded different. Now I sound back to normal. If anything, maybe it's a bit better now, so I'll take it. But like at the time, it was like, I was like, God, I'm going to have to learn how to talk again. Like that's how it felt. And what it did for me was a few things. I remember talking to one spiritual guide at the time, and I said to him, I can't speak to God out loud anymore. Like I can't hear myself talk to God. I can't chant. Mantra is such a big part of Eastern tradition. I can't chant out loud. And you're meant to chant out loud so you can hear the spiritual sacred sound. Like that's our practice. And he goes to me, God's teaching you to chant with your heart. Like, and I was like, God, like that at that time, I just remember that like hitting me. It was like, he was like, yeah, you think you talk to God out loud? Like, you think that's what God listens to? He was like, God's listening to this. Like, God knows what's going on in here. It's got nothing to do with sound and voice. And I was like, wow, that's huge to learn to talk to God with my heart. Like,
wow.
What does that even mean?
Yes.
And then at the same time, it's what you said, where it was like, okay, now that my voice is starting to come back, how am I going to respect the fact that I have a voice, like to not take it for granted, to be like, how can you feel that this ease with which we're talking right now and we're communicating and I can hear you, you can hear me, when that goes away, God, life feels colorless and, and it loses so much value. And so again, and we were talking about this offline as well, like when of course you forget all this.
You start taking all the gifts for granted again. You probably have to in a way to try and kind of move through the trauma. But I don't know if you have moments where you remember that and you just sink into that deep sense of humility and gratitude. And
humility is the word. I mean, you're taking me back there actually. I don't think I've actually thought about this. I don't think I've talked about it publicly, to be honest myself. I can't remember if I've actually talked about it. And I'm being reminded of your experience, like your experience triggering me going, yeah, like that,
that was intense.
That was intense. And that
was traumatic.
Yeah, it was traumatic. But all of that to say with all of yours, talk to me about where does the shame come from going through something like that? and then not wanting to share it. Because I think there's the pain of going through something traumatic, and there's the pain of communicating it to a group of people who may or may not actually understand what the hell you just went through.
Yeah.
But talk to me about, where was the shame for you in wanting to share that, and what kept in for so long?
I will, but can I first tell you something about your voice?
Yeah.
I love your voice. But here's the thing. Sometimes I'm walking down the street, it doesn't happen to me a lot, but it's happened to me enough times that I want to mention it. Sometimes people stop me and they say I'm on the phone or whatever, they've heard me talking, they go, "So can I just tell you, you sound exactly like Jay Shetty."
That is hilarious. I'll take that as a compliment.
I take it as a compliment, bro. You'd make an amazing MC. I think you got a great voice for that.
There used to be a few mixtapes in the past.
Yeah.
Come on,
there
man.
Like, So I just I'm going to give your voice its flowers. The shame, I think that the show is about this idea of wanting to be James Bond.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted that. I mean, who doesn't? Or if not exactly that, a version of that. Then what I mean by that is like, you want to aspire to this archetype of heroism.
Mm-hmm.
And that is about being this kind of invulnerable, powerful alpha male, whatever that means. Although hilariously, I mean, the alpha male in a wolf pack is the animal that lets the kids beat it up the most, and is like the most chill and the least aggressive, right? But we have these ideas in our culture. And I guess I already felt like I don't fit the mold, for all the reasons we've already discussed that we experienced growing up. I don't want another strike against me of people somehow thinking I'm weak, or I'm fragile, whereas now I look at it as like, well, actually, I feel like I showed a lot of resources and strength and grit, mental and physical. Teaching yourself to walk again or lift your arms or whatever, that takes strength. And I can say that now. At the time, I just saw the glass half empty of it, and I thought, I don't even want anyone to think that I'm weak, that I'm broken, that I'm not up to the mark.
Yeah.
And in a way, I actually think that there's some truth in that I think the culture has shifted a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I think we do, because of spaces like this, man, that you've created and other people have created, where we can talk and celebrate our vulnerabilities a bit more. I mean, it's talking about this right now. My body right now is kind of like going,
oh God, yeah.
Did I just say all this? Did I do all this? But I also feel a bit lighter. It's that thing of digging inside, like I said, and it's an offering. If there's someone going through something like this, that's watching this, if it normalizes their experience, if it makes them feel less alone, then that's beautiful, and I want to share that. I think it was that, really. I think it was kind of it was the distance between that public and private self. And I felt that if my public self gets too close to my reality, it'll fall apart again.
Mm. Yeah, well said. Yeah, no, I really believe you sharing that, especially talking about perception in that externally, everyone can be like, oh, you're winning, your career's been amazing, you won Emmys, like Oscar, all this stuff. And it's like to actually go, oh, wait a minute, even him, like there's stuff he's going through, not only is affecting him mentally, physically, and that mental physical connection that I want people to make here, which I know you do too, which is this idea that a lot of what we're going through physically is coming from some sort of emotional block, mental block. And in Bait, you visualize that as this severed pig's head, which is this Patrick Stewart voice, severed pig's head.
So yes, the critical inner voice in Bait is a severed pig's head. It was sent to the family as a racist attack. And it's about, I guess, how we can internalize the criticism of us, internalize the prejudice. So it starts to become almost like his best friend. And for me, for a long time, my critical inner voice was something I didn't want to lose. I was worried that if I make peace with it or turn the volume down on that too much, I'll get lazy, I'll get complacent. I remember even when we won an Oscar for our short film, it's so funny. It was almost like the Oscar was looking at me going, you ain't shit. The kind of elation lasted as long as me going there, collecting it, going backstage, going to the toilet, coming back and sitting down again. By the time I sat down, in fact, I would say my critical inner voice was at an all-time high when I was sat there holding that Oscar in my hand, because it was almost like a survival mechanism. My brain was going, or that voice, that part of my brain was going, don't put your feet up now. Don't think you can get complacent. Don't kick back.
Yeah.
I have programmed you to strive, not to savor. And so you now going to really crack the whip. And it was just going crazy. I remember sitting there in that seat, having the most aggressively critical thoughts to myself. It was like out of control.
Mm.
But in a show, it's played by a severed pig's head. I want you to know, there was a moment, long moment, where I was like, It has to be Jay Shetty. We ended up getting Sir Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, I know.
So you lost the role to someone who's, I thought it has to be a really kind of super established actor, one of the greats. So it makes Shah, my character, feel insecure. Actually, what if you were my evil twin? I mean, there's not this slight resemblance, maybe. I was like, yeah, what if it should be Jay? Jay should be my critical inner voice.
That would be hilarious. That would have been so funny. But no, Sir Patrick Stewart was the right choice. It was one of those moments in the show where you're like, what? Like, it's such a surprise.
Right, yeah.
Talk to me about that, because I think what you just identified is the high performers and overachievers curse, where the inner critic is what drives you to extraordinary success.
Do you think? Usually, right?
Usually, from everyone I've interviewed, whether it's basketball players, whether it's tennis players, whether it's F1 drivers.
They all say the same thing, basically.
The athletes who I think are playing at the levels where every inch counts and every minute matters, they all have this crazy inner critic, which they have to learn what to do with it, because in the moment, they have to believe that this point is the only thing that matters. And then as soon as they win or lose the point, they have to believe that point doesn't matter at all.
Wow.
Because that's the switch there. So their code switch is like, when I'm playing this point, this is the most important point in the world. And then as soon as the point's over, whether I win or lost the point, that point's irrelevant.
So you need the inner critic and the inner cheerleader.
Totally. You've got
to basically be able to toggle between them both. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't want to believe that the inner critic is the jet fuel. I want to believe that it's like one of the engines, right? But there's got to be that other engine. Because, I also feel that, yes, I feel like the inner critic or that fear of failure, the possibility of shame, all these things can drive us. But I think it can also make us quite tense. And I think our best performances come when we're in a state of flow. And that is about, like you were saying, too tight, too loose. That is also about being kind of loose. That's about joy. It's about openness and receptivity and play and curiosity.
Yeah.
All those things that the critic does not really give us. And so, yeah, for me, it's like on that mixing desk of the voices in my head. You don't want to hear the voices in my head, Jay. There's a lot of them. You're one of them. But I'm trying to just find that right balance and find the right moment to bring up that cheerleader versus the critic.
I'm glad you said that, because I would agree with you, and I would encourage people to go there, especially if you're a high achiever, a high performer, or even if you have goals and you think the only way to get there is to make yourself feel bad and beat yourself up, and to actually go, well, that isn't the way I want to get there. There is a way of getting there that isn't that. That just seems to be the most common way that a lot of successful people have got there, but then they didn't like where they got either.
I think it can get you to a place, but then it will kill you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
People would whip horses to like make them run faster.
Yeah.
You're going to kill that horse at some point, man.
Yeah.
You're going to really hurt it.
Get exhausted. Yeah. That's a great visual.
I'm trying to find a way of something else kind of taking over. And honestly, I kind of feel like what you were talking about before with kids, that's been a great teacher for me. Play. Just on a really basic level.
Yeah.
Play. The joy of that, the curiosity of it, actually not being in control. That's been a great teacher for me. Not least because actually I think kids, you can't control them really. I mean, they humble you every day, right? They totally kind of, there's that thing where you don't raise your kids, they raise you.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that's kind of something I'm trying to pass the baton from the critic to the cheerleader or to the child.
Yeah, to the child. I like that. Yeah, there's this beautiful quote from George Bernard Shaw that I love, where he said, "We don't stop playing because we get old. We get old because we stop playing."
Oof.
And I love that. Like, it's so good, because I'm like, yeah, like that's why we feel old, is because we stop playing. We stop being curious. We stop marveling at the greatness of a Velcro shoe, that simplicity. And that's why time, I was looking into it actually, because that's why as we get older, I'm sure you feel this way too, time just flies. Every adult I talk to, they're like, yeah, God, time's just going faster.
But apparently that is a proven fact, that our brains subjectively experience time differently as we get older.
Yes.
So in terms of subjectively, the spread of our life and how it feels to our brains is 50% of our life is lived between the age of 0 and 8 years old.
Which is crazy.
That's like half of it, because of how a day feels when you're a little kid, how expansive and huge it can feel, and how quick a year can feel towards the tail end. So yeah, as you're starting to feel more and more conscious of time and its passage, like what is that doing for you? Is that just mean streamlining and focusing on the things you really want to, or how are you managing with that?
At one point in my life, I listened to Steve Jobs' Stanford commencement speech every day for 9 months.
Wow.
In my opinion, it's the best speech ever given, because he also knew he was going to die. So I feel like when someone knows they're going to die,
it's that death awareness meditation, right? It's a big part of the kind of monastic tradition in Eastern philosophy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like every word mattered. Like that wasn't performance. If you see him do it, he also just reads it like deadpan. Like there's no performance, there's no emphasis, there's no poet. Like he's not trying.
It's just truth.
Yeah, because he knows he's going to die. So it's like so I listened to that, and there's a line in it that just goes like something like, and I'll butcher it so people should listen to the real thing, but he literally says something like, every few days, if I check in with myself and I ask myself, and I look in the mirror, like, am I doing what I want to do if this was my last day? And if after 3 or 4 days, the answer isn't, this is what I should be doing, then I know I've got something to change. And I'm like, I don't think we can all live like that all the time. I think there's, people have responsibilities and pressures and whatever, but I think there's truth to the idea of, did you call the person that you would call if it was your last day? Did you talk to your partner in the way you would if it was the last time you were going to talk to them? Did you look at your kid before you went out to work in a way that you would want them to know was how much you loved them? Like, I think all those things do matter. That applies even if you've got to go to a job every day and you've got to say hello to people. It's like, did you behave with everyone in the way that you want to be remembered? I think that is important to me. And I think it's streamlining. I think it's focusing. I think it's all those things. But really, it's less about what I do and it's more about who I am, and in that, what is the spirit of my being? I've noticed versions of that where, like, in order to become successful, I've had to be more technical. I've had to be more strategic. I've had to be more organized. I've had to be whatever the words are. And then I go, I'm just a guy who loves the heart. Like, that's who I am at the core of, like, I'm just a guy who just wants to, like, love and be loved. Like, that's who I am at my essence. And who are the people who can take me back to that in this crazy world where I have to be all these other versions of myself in order to do the thing? People always say, like, what's your favorite place? And I'm like, I'm never looking for my favorite place. I'm looking for my favorite people. Because as long as I'm with my favorite people, it doesn't matter where I am. And so I'm looking for people actively, always, that keep taking me back to that place within my heart and can do it quicker, more beautifully, more gracefully, more elegantly. And I find some of them are old friends that I've had for 20, 25 years. And some of them are new people that I just met last year.
People who can make you more yourself. People who can make you forget yourself.
People who go beyond the performance
of your avatar.
Like the person who's not getting you to play up to your avatar or your, what. And so I'm always looking to not collectors, and I don't need a million of those people, but you got to find a few people that you just drop in. Your nervous system calms down. The active mind switches off.
So important, so important. It's interesting you say that because, like, we're in LA right now, and I had a very kind of, like, you're making me think about this because I had this narrative where I was like, I don't like LA. And you're actually making me think about this is, like, there are periods of time when I've adored LA. And the thing that was surprising me now is just before coming here, I was like, I gotta go to LA, man. Being from London, like walking, and, and like driving and everything's spread out. And I was like, you don't see anyone, and all these kind of cliched criticisms, right? And yet I woke up today in LA, absolutely loving it because with my wife, with my kid, I'm with family, family has come to visit. The house is full. And it's suddenly like being back as a kid, surrounded by clapping aunties or whatever, you know what I mean? It just feels like that environment. It feels like home. And absolutely, it's the people, man. It's the people that made the place 100%. And yeah, I was kind of confronted with that realization this morning. I was like, oh yeah, I've just slipped into this kind of lazy narrative. It's like, it's not what it's about.
Yeah, and the timepiece too that you brought up that I think is a really valuable thing is, like, how much can I not try and fill time? And how much can I not try and be distracted?
I find it hard, like, kind of doing nothing.
Yeah.
Something that is starting to help is reading. I'm very poorly read.
Nah, I don't believe that, really.
I kind of like...
through your work, I would like...
I pick up a lot of things in, like... I listen to a lot of music, I listen to podcasts, I watch talks, I go to talks, I talk to people. But I had, like, growing up, crazy ADHD. And I'd get into a lot of trouble at school. Now I look back, I'm like, oh, of course, that's what that was. And, there's loads of different ways in which that manifests. So sitting down to read a book was like torture. It was historically, again, the narrative, I don't read, I can't read. Recently, particularly being married to a novelist, that was like, this is a bit of a deal breaker. You need to be reading books. You at least read my book. I was like, okay, I've got to sit down and do this. That is the thing that is allowing me to, like, sit and kind of do nothing. Again, it's forgetting myself. You know what I mean? But I otherwise struggle with it. I can very easily fill time, create a new idea. Now let's progress it. What if we do that? And I'm sure, I don't know, how do you manage that? Is that something that you're also navigate.
I had to set rules around it because I'm like that as well. I feel like I'm a creative brain. I like building stuff. I like playing with stuff, but I had to start just building real parameters around that where.
And what do you mean? Like, as in you don't work after 6 p.m.?
Yeah,
or
literally. It's like I won't think about work or be on my phone after 6 p.m. because to me, that rest and renewal is where the best ideas come out. Talking about flow state, I can't invent flow. I can't engineer it. I can't manufacture it. And so for it to exist, I need to be in this lucid state where Riz said something that randomly allowed for me to be inspired at 8 p.m. and it came up and that's fine. But I don't need to act on it immediately. I just need to let it breathe and let it sit.
Letting it sit. Best ideas come on the toilet, see, bro. In the shower.
In the shower.
Well, actually, we started taking our phones to the toilets. The toilet's now not the creative mecca it used to be, but the shower, man. The shower is always where you go. Yeah. And actually, just to give Elliot's flowers, driving has been great for me.
I agree.
In that sense. When you're just going on these long drives and you allow the thing to bubble up. David Lynch talk about the fish, right? These fish that would just swim to the surface sometimes if you could just allow the water to be still enough.
Riz, I want to do a set of questions for you that we've got that speak about everything we've been talking about, but we're going to do them as, not rapid fire, but we're going to do them as...
Quicker fire.
Yeah, quicker fire. Yeah, not like...
Non-rambly fire.
I don't want... No. You can give longer answers, but I want to kind of get some out from you. So what's the hardest mask you've had to take off?
I think it was probably around my health, yeah. You know, kind of letting people into that. Even when it was happening, I was trying to keep people at a distance. I didn't want people to see me like that.
Yeah.
Particularly if I thought I was like, if I might die, then I don't want people to remember me like this almost, you know. So I think it was that. I think it was when I was at my most vulnerable, letting people in on what was happening and starting to slowly share that.
What part of you still feels like it doesn't belong?
Different parts of me in every place that I go to.
That's interesting, yeah.
And I think a lot of people feel like that. A lot of creative people feel like that. I've learned to embrace that, actually. I actually feel like having that slight outsider's perspective can be kind of fun.
Yeah.
It allows me to like enjoy things at a distance as well. But yeah, I mean, all the time. I mean, you know, I remember going to meet the Queen and accidentally trying to fist bump her.
That's so good.
It was like a British film industry reception. Right. Everyone lines up. She put her hand out like this from the angle that I was at. I thought she was going like this. I went like this. The security went like this. And I ended up just going like this. You know, it was super weird. Yeah, her ring. So I don't know, man. Like there's all these kind of moments of feeling like a fish out of water that now I actually kind of like, I quite enjoy being like, well, where am I? What is this? You know, it's something you can laugh about later.
Yeah, it's a better story too.
I think so. Yeah, if you felt totally comfortable everywhere you went, then you're probably not in the right place. David Bowie says this thing of, is when you can't feel the bottom of the swimming pool, is you know you're in the right place. You know, you're slightly out of your depth, working it out.
That's beautiful. I love that. That's one of the reasons why I actually like living in LA, because I'm reminded of my insignificance daily.
Because it's so big.
Because it's so big, and I go to an event and I'm the least important person in the room. And I love it because the only conversation I'll have is a really meaningful one. Because the only person who's aware of me is someone who's connected to the kind of work I do.
Wow.
And then that allows me to bask in the glory of the rarity of that human and the interaction we just had. So I try to belong to one person than belong to a room or a place or a space. Because belonging to one person is kind of all we're looking for anyway. It's like when you meet one person and you go, oh God, we're even like, you know, we're from the same area. Like, you know, we know the same people. Like that to me in a busy, big room is like pure joy that I know even the person winning an award on stage, as you've rightly just said, isn't even feeling.
Yeah.
And so it's not being celebrated that gives us joy. It's not belonging to a whole room that gives us joy.
It's connection,
It's just
right?
one person that looks at you and you go, we're from the same place. We believe in the same things. We care about whatever that may be. Or I had a really good debate with someone that engaged me in a really curious way and we don't agree.
It can be so overwhelming in those rooms, can't it? Where like you're chatting to people and you feel like everyone's like looking over your shoulder to see if there's someone else to talk to. And it's like pinball. It's like social pinball. But finding a center in those rooms, finding a kind of a rooted place to drop into. Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, I always say to God, I'm like, I just want to meet the one person you want me to meet today. And that's how I walk into a room.
I love it.
And I always meet that person. And it's always like, becomes a friendship, or we had a great conversation and we don't talk ever again. And it's just like, yeah, God, like I'm here for you. So you just introduce me to the one person you want to introduce me to.
Beautiful.
And that kind of carries me. So this one's a good one. So when was the last time you tried to people please?
This is going to sound like a small thing, but clothes matter to me a lot.
Me too, man.
I grew up near Wembley Market where they sold all the fake designer clothes.
Yeah.
So it was all about that. We'd go and buy some and we'd sell them. And then we'd go, you know, and try and buy some real ones. And I don't know, we were just kind of obsessed with it, you know, as teenagers trying to wear the mask or have the costume or find worth, whatever it is. Now I see it more as a kind of expression of myself. think recently I was going to do a talk show or something. And I said, I shouldn't wear that outfit. That's too me in a weird way.
Wow.
I was like, I need to meet the audience where they're at.
Yeah.
Maybe they haven't seen a show like this or have related to someone like me from my background. I'm doing something maybe target like, this middle America or something. And I tried to dilute down what I would wear and who I would be.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily when I was wearing the thing, I was like, who the hell is this?
Yeah.
What am I doing? And I took it off. But I remember, and I remember actually in that moment being quite surprised. I was like, oh, that's just still a really strong instinct in me.
Yeah.
To do that, to edit and censor myself in that way. Sounds like a small thing, but
Do you think though you only get away with being able to make that choice when you're successful?
I think chicken and egg. I think the people who become most successful are the people who are most unapologetically themselves.
I love that. What a great answer. Yeah.
Because the specificity and the honesty and the authenticity is what people are attracted to. It just feels real,
That's the narrative again we tell ourselves. Oh, when I'm successful, then I'll be myself.
When people accept me, I'll be me. Or if you be you, then people will accept you.
Yeah. So well said, man. So well said. I feel like before we go to the final 5, which is our rapid fire, I feel like we have to give a bunch of shout outs to places in North and Northwest London that we grew up around, because we got to go niche. We were talking about this before. We were like, we could have done a whole interview about Northwest London and no one else would have got us apart from our hometown, which we love.
So this is for the 15 people that know exactly what we're talking about.
I'm going to start with the one I said to you earlier, Kebabish.
Kebabish is on Ealing Road.
Yeah.
Kebabish is literally a place that I shout out on my last rap song.
Do you know what? When I said that to you earlier, I didn't even know that.
I just did a track called We Good with Cassis did. It's on the Bait soundtrack, actually.
Yeah.
I name-checked Kebabish specifically. And the amount of people from my past who reached out and texted me like, bro, Kebabish. You remember those days when we used to go Kebabish? The garlic mayo. My mouth is watering as I'm talking. It's actually the naan. It's the freshness of the naan. Shout out Kebabish, Ealing Road.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. What about, were you St. Anne's or St. George's? These are 2 shopping malls in Harrow in Northwest London, right?
Yeah. Whichever one the girl I was dating wanted to go to. So it was like I was flexible. Yeah, I was like, whichever.
All right, so that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a great one.
I was actually saying, again, to shout out this area in London, it says Northwest London, we have all the best J's. We have Jay Sean, Jay Paul, and Jay Shetty. And that's it. It's the Holy Trinity, man. It's the Holy Brown Trinity.
That's hilarious. And then we have Riz and Dev Patel.
Yes, we're also there holding down the fort, Raiders Lane, Sudbury Town. So, but it's interesting. It's this kind of little pocket corner of the world that's there's super multicultural. Because of that, I think it's like a real creative hotbed and you get some interesting stuff happening there.
Yeah, Anthony Joshua from Watford.
He's from Watford. AJ.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sitting down with you is like, it is sitting down with an old friend. Like it feels that way because it's like the schools you went to, the people you grew up around, friends and family. But Riz, you've been amazing to talk to today. Honestly, it's
an absolute honor to be talking to you.
Been beyond my expectations to get your openness, your honesty, your vulnerability. The show Bait is a winner already. Can't wait for more people to watch it. I can't wait for you. I mean, I know you've got Digger coming out this year. You've got, Hamlet that's out already. Like I feel like, just keeps becoming more and more your year for actually putting out real expression.
Thank you,
and
brother.
Truth.
I appreciate it. I'm trying to receive it. There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
But Riz, we end every interview with the final 5. These questions have to be answered in 1 sentence maximum.
Oh God, here we go.
So Riz, these are your final 5 brought to you by State Farm. The first question is, what is the best advice you've ever heard or received?
Idris Elba once said to me, categorize yourself not.
Explain.
I'd hit a glass ceiling in my career in the UK. He was like, you should go to America. I'm like, bro, what are they going to do with a guy like me over there? They're going to do nothing. I'm this. They don't have that. They have that. I'm not this. And he went, categorize yourself not, my friend. And actually, when you do that, you're doing other people's work for them. It's about the limitations people place on you, how we internalize them. And then we perpetuate that narrative and go, and I'm this is my lane. I'm this flavor. There's so many different sides to who you are. I told him that recently and he was like, I was like, bro, do you remember that conversation? He was like, nah, I don't remember any of that. I was like, great, thanks a lot, bro. But it's those throwaway moments, right? When people kind of like see you differently to how you used to be seen.
Did you feel that? Like, was that hard? I know the representation conversations overplayed. I know those conversations have happened of just like, making it as a brown man in Hollywood. You've done that. But what is the reality of that? Because we say that and then you're like, well, wait a minute, actually, no, I haven't done that. Because
I think that there's a reality that for women, for people of color, for people who are differently abled, there is a lot more resistance. I definitely do feel like sometimes I have to work, twice as hard to get half as far. But I'm also kind of starting to feel like that gives my journey more meaning. to me, but I know for a fact also for many others, you know?
Yeah.
And that actually, I think more and more friction is what gives life its meaning. You know, you order a meal on Deliveroo, it does not taste the same as you taking that time to cook that for yourself. Shout out Deliveroo. I'm not saying that I don't do that, but I'm just kind of like, I just feel like it's what's given my journey its meaning for me, and I know for others. So I wouldn't change it. I think for a long time I'd say, I wish I could swap that out. Wish I could make that different, but I don't feel that way anymore.
What advice would you give to someone who is a person of color, differently abled, who is a woman, a gender that may have any of these experiences? What would you say to them? Because I think the bitterness, the pain, the rejection
It's real.
Is real, yeah.
It's real. It's justified. It's not imagined. I don't want to gaslight anyone who's going through that. It's hard. I would say, you know, my experience is like the gift and the curse are usually the same thing. You losing your voice has made you so conscious of what you're communicating and how and the words you're choosing. There's so many examples I can think of in my own journey where the thing that I thought was blocking me, if I just leaned into it, it could unlock something. And I would say to all of those people, the thing about you that's different is an obstacle in certain ways, but it's also the key. And I would say lean into the specificity of your experience, of who you are. You know, I went to Oxford University and felt very out of place there on many different levels. And my experience there taught me something, which is that actually, because I was thinking about quitting after the first month. I was like, what the hell am I doing here? Kind of had a mental health kind of breakdown almost over there and felt super depressed, super kind of like an alien. But I kind of feel like now the place where you stick out, if you can find a support, if it doesn't hurt you, the place that you stick out is a place where you should kind of stick it out. You have an opportunity of changing the temperature in that room, of bringing other people into that room.
I love that, man. Yeah, it reminds me of the Stoic statement of the obstacle is the way.
Oh,
it's
wow.
the idea of like the obstacle is the way. There is no other way. And so that obstacle, whether it's how you're set up or your background or your uniqueness.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 2. What is the worst advice you've ever heard or received?
It was one of the first casting directors I ever met said, hey, nice to meet you, Riz. Just be careful about your eyes. You can look like a bit of a psychopath sometimes. Because I do this. I get excited and I start going like this. I want to watch this interview back going, I did it there. I did it there. I sometimes say to my wife, I goes, am I doing the crazy eyes? She goes, don't think about the crazy eyes, okay? But it just made me very self-conscious. And actually, weirdly, I remember for a couple of years after that, I was acting like this and everything. Go and watch some of my stuff from like the early aughts, bro. I'm like,
that's brilliant. That's so good.
I have big eyes. I can get animated. I've got to learn to try and lean into that.
Yeah. I love that. Question number 3, you mentioned your wife a few times. What's been the biggest lesson that you've learned from your wife?
When I see the path that my wife has been on, how she's had to fight every step of the way, the dedication, the devotion it has taken for her to tell her story with such specificity and reach the world with it, I think I've kind of understood what devotion means. Devotion to her path. Her creativity is a kind of prayer, is a kind of devotion. Devotion in seeing how she is with our child. I think she just operates from a deep place, you know? I think the biggest thing she's taught me that, and also you can never buy enough phone chargers. She will take them all and lose them all.
Yeah.
You know, they say is the way that
So
the first thing about someone that you find cute ends up being the thing that's like, kill me now.
Yeah.
We actually met because she had lost her phone charger.
No.
I was in a cafe in New York, a laptop charger. I was in a cafe in New York, just writing a script or whatever. She came in on the phone, laptop's only on the communal table. She sits down opposite me, pulls out her laptop, starts emptying out her bag looking for her charger. It's like chaos. And I was like, can I help you? Do you want to borrow my charger? After 6 years of marriage, bro, that hasn't changed. She's still borrowing my charger. Now I'm trying to hide the charger from her.
That's
always
brilliant.
that first thing
was that her play? Like, did she know? She was like,
Bro, no. I might have thought that maybe for a minute. Now that I know her, I just know.
Nah.
It's like a vortex of chargers. No, but look, I'm just kind of trying to downplay it and joke around. But I think, you know what, my wife has taught me so much. But the word that comes to my mind is devotion. Devotion to a purpose, to a journey. To your path.
I love that, man. Beautiful answer. Question number 4. What do you pray to God for today?
I went to Mecca recently and you do this thing where you kind of try and pray for everyone you know by name. And I started realizing that everything ends up kind of cohering around like 3 basic ideas. I pray for people's health. I pray for people's ability to provide. for themselves and their loved ones in a way that allows them to have dignity and feel good about it. And the third thing that I always pray for everyone is for them to be brought closer to their purpose. I always say, God, bring me close to my purpose, because that's a way of bringing me closer to myself as you intend, and also closer to you. Your purpose, I think your path is something that is extremely personal, but also divine. And so alignment to our path, to our purpose, there's this phrase in Islam, the Sirat al-Mustaqim, which is the straight path. Right? People interpret that in different ways, but for me, it's about finding your path, the path that's intended for you. So yeah, man, your health, your rozi roti, your ability to provide, and your path.
I love that. Have you been to Mecca before? Is that the first time?
No, I went once when I was 15, but it was a different experience. I went older and actually from a more spiritually skeptical place, you know, how life throws you around and you kind of ask questions. And we went this December, and both me and my wife went with openness. And I would say, you know, we are Muslim and we have spirituality in our lives, but we also feel often that organized religion and the way that it's used, it's definitely brought some skepticism into our hearts as well. And going there was incredible. And I would say it was actually just a physical act of walking around in a circle with all these people from all over the world, everyone dressed the same, everyone's mask kind of stripped away. There's just such a sense of oneness there. It was really kind of beautiful. And I promised myself, I've got to try and bottle this feeling. But of course, as soon as you're on that plane, you're like back on your phone. But it was powerful, yeah.
It's interesting as you were talking about that, because I've been thinking about this idea a lot about how modern society has made everything about upwards and forwards. And actually, when you look at spiritual traditions, everything's circumambulating.
Beautiful.
And even in India, when you go to a holy place, you circle it.
Or in a wedding, when you walk around the fire 7 times,
everything's
right?
circle it. And so when you start looking at life that way versus that way,
I love it.
It's just a fascinating mindset shift of what if we saw life as cyclical and not as linear? And everything we just talked about today.
I love what you're saying. I think of it as a spiral.
A spiral, right.
Because you kind of retread the same ground in life, but hopefully from a more elevated perspective each time.
I like that.
You know, and epiphany kind of works in that way as well. And those leaps that you have of understanding, they're usually kind of not by by retracing your steps.
Yeah.
And feeling different or wanting something to feel different.
I like the ascension aspect that you just added. That's not just round and round and round. It's spiraling upwards. Right. So there is some ascension, which is beautiful. Fifth and final question we ask this to every guest who's ever been on the show. I'm really excited for your answer, actually. You can think about it for as long as you want. If you could create one law that everyone in the world had to follow, what would it be?
I want to be off my phone more. But we're all locked in because everyone's on their phone. I'll put it down if everyone else does. I just want everyone to be off their phone. I want everyone to go back to dumb phones. And here's why. That I go through periods of time where I put my phone away totally. I put it in a little safe and I lock it away for 12 hours or 20 hours or, before we had a kid, me and my wife would go away, and she, as a novelist, she has to do that kind of deep work,
Yeah.
You can't kind of dip in and out of it. The way she does it, at least, she can't. And so the phone would go away for 5 days. We'd check into a hotel, give it to them and say, we'll take this when we check out. Time feels totally different. My experience of the day feels totally different. The thoughts in my mind are totally different. I'm a little bit closer to being obsessed with the Velcro on the shoe again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would love to just do that. I don't know what that means about this show though, Jay, and who gets to see it. Maybe we'll have certain hours in the day.
Yeah.
Where we can all go back online.
No, that's a great answer.
Right?
I love it. I feel like that's the crux of it all. Riz Ahmed, Bait, excited for everything that comes from this day. I hope we stay in touch.
Yeah, man.
It's been such a joy to do this with you, and I hope you felt you got to share everything and anything you wanted to talk about.
Absolutely. And thank you for creating this space for me and for other people. It's a very enriching space, an empowering one where we can just be vulnerable in that way and share. So thank you.
Thank you, man.